Record. Okay, cool. Okie doke. Okay, so thank you for joining me, Laurie, Dr. Laurie Slifka. You just bought a house,
I
resale
did.
home in Evanston, Illinois, which is super exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to chat about, kind of not necessarily logistics of like, buying the home and the process, but more why you bought the home and now how you feel now that you're in it, right? Um,
Great. Yeah.
so why like were there any big changes, like big life changes that motivated you that were
Yeah.
like the
So,
motivating factor?
yeah, we have been renting a condo in Evanston for 4 years now. It's a 3 bed, 2 bath in a really great location in Evanston. We've been really happy with the location, with the price. But when we welcomed our second kid in May 2022, and when he started, going from baby to toddler stage, we started busting at the seams a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, so he basically, it's called a 3 bedroom, but the third bedroom is kind of like a little bit of a closet. So that became his bedroom as well as my husband's office. So
Mm-hmm.
we were just felt like we were outgrowing our space. And because we have two little, very energetic kids, we wanted more space. We wanted a yard. We wanted really, easy accessibility. So instead of going downstairs and street parking, we wanted them to just be able to go outside, to ride their bike, stuff like that. So I would say our biggest motivation in buying a house was our children.
Yeah. Did the market, like all the news around the market and the interest rates and all of that stuff, did that impact your decision at all? Like, were you a little stressed or?
Yeah, I mean, of course. So I would say we started our life a little bit later than, not really, but I didn't get my first full-time job till I was 30. Was getting my doctorate. My husband didn't either because he was in graduate school. And so by the time we were able to really start saving, we had kids.
Right.
And kids cost a little bit of money. Um, so it kept being a decision that we were putting off until we, had more money for a down payment or we felt more comfortable. We had more in our savings.
Mhm.
And then it just became a place that it was like, let's just start to like look around a little bit. Like I think we were both feeling kind of uncomfortable. And it was like, do we get a bigger condo? Do we buy a house? And so we were comparing, and it mortgage rates compared to rent rates around here were really similar. We did have savings. And so it just kind of became like, let's do it. Like we had some fear that the market, you never know what's going to happen. And like we are not experts in this, but we had some fear that once interest rates dropped, prices would go up. And there'd be more like bidding wars. And we are not very cash heavy. So we couldn't compete in like cash wars.
Right.
Cash wars.
Yeah.
So we decided to go for it. We found a house we really liked, and we're hoping to eventually refinance
Yeah.
instead
Okay.
of paying more for that house maybe in a year.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. When you were, so was there any like your friends, your family, do they all own a home? Do they rent? Do you talk about that with your family at all
Um,
or friends?
my Yeah, I mean, my family owns home outright.
Hmm.
But that's my parents. I don't have any siblings, so that's a bit of a different generation. I have a group of friends all over I have friends all over the country, but my friends in Evanston, I have a big group of mom friends here. And I would
Yeah.
say about 90% do own a home. Most of them bought 2020, 2021. And it was kind of like that push once, because we all have kids the same age,
Yeah.
3. So it was that push when everybody was getting pregnant, having kids to buy a home. So they locked in at like a lower interest rate.
Yeah.
Um, one of my good friends here actually bought a home the same week we did. So that was
Oh,
kind of
nice.
fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I have friends in other parts of the country. I used to live in Florida. Most of those friends actually do rent. Um, my closest friend in Florida doesn't see Florida as a long-term home, so that's why she's still renting
Mhm.
to get out of there. But I would say in terms of like Midwest friends, Evanston, mostly homeowners. We
Did
talk
you,
about it all the time.
oh, you do with your
Oh,
Evanston? Like what do you talk about with them?
and it's just like such a suburban life, just like tax bills, painters, general contractors,
Okay.
snow removal. Like we have
Oh
a
my God.
spreadsheet that's shared between all of us. That's like home, it's called like the Evanston home spreadsheet. And it's like a list of electricians we recommend, a list of general contractors, a list of painters, landscapers. And so we all like kind of share that information. So we're getting the best deals and whatnot. So it's definitely a topic of conversation.
That's a great idea. That's
It's
a really
great
great idea.
because then like we're getting all this work done on our house right now. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's all referral based. Because I go to my little spreadsheet, I'm like, okay, Andrea just used blah 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 for plumbing and said it was a much better deal than this big company, and she liked them because we write notes next to it too.
Okay. That's really smart. Like I've heard about that with like new home construction, like the builders will give you a
There's
list
no
of,
new home construction here.
right.
These
Okay.
houses are hundreds of years old.
You
Yeah.
know, what's funny
It's
is I
all making sure that these houses don't crumble.
but what's funny is I literally was just on a webinar and they were talking about master plan communities. And there's literally, they showed a map of the US and no master plan communities happening in the Midwest or the Northwest, literally none.
Interesting.
But it showed that the like average income was the highest in like Montana and pretty high in Chicago and suburbs. Like there's some wealth and money in
Yeah, there's just nowhere
in
to
that
build.
area. There's nowhere to build.
I mean, Evanston, we're pretty stacked on top of each other. It's more,
Yeah.
it's kind of like suburban city life. And
Yeah.
we lucked out and that our house is only 50 years old. I have friends that have houses that were built in the early 1900s
Yeah.
and like lead paint kind of problems.
Right.
So
Okay.
we have like a new house in Evanston. Like it's basically a new build.
It's all relative. It's all like. Okay, but that's really interesting, the spreadsheet. I think that's cool.
Yeah, we do
Did
that
you
also with like shows and stuff too.
with
If
what?
you ever want to join like the Evanston Mom spreadsheet, we have like show recommendations and stuff too
Oh,
on
ooh.
different ones. Yeah, I'll let
I
you
must
in.
be like, who's this girl in San Diego?
I'll tell them they'll welcome you.
Good idea. Um,
Midwest. We love,
I
yeah.
know. People in Midwest are so nice
Yeah.
and kind and like they're great. Um, oh, so before you bought your house and you were talking to like your group of friends, did you ever feel like any pressure?
Yes.
Yeah, like like keeping up with the Joneses. Did you kind of
Yes.
feel that way?
Yes. It's very keeping up with the Joneses here on the North Shore.
So can you explain that a little bit? Like,
Yeah, I live in a very careful with this headed. I live in a very upper class, wealthy society. So once you go, you Evanston is right north of the city of Chicago. So it's like, if we go like half a mile south of where I am right now here in the city, and then you kind of travel up Lake Michigan and it just kind of gets more expensive. So you go Evanston, Wilmette, Kenilworth, Winnetka. Winnetka is one of the richest communities in the country. And there is pressure, being in that environment that, a lot of people have less, a lot of people have more, but it's definitely can be a keeping up with the Joneses society.
when you guys
That
were
wasn't my
talking,
motivation to buy a house because I'm not going out and buying Mercedes because other people are buying Mercedes. I'm
right?
driving around my old 10-year-old car till it falls apart
Yeah.
because that gets my family from point A to point B. So the
Mhm.
biggest motivation on the house was to fulfill the needs of my family. But I'm not saying that there's not pressure in this society.
Yeah. Did okay, that's interesting because I have talked to some people who it's like they say I feel like their words were like I feel like I should be for like all my friends have already bought. So I feel like I should be further along because I'm still renting, but I'm not. And it's kind of
Yeah,
like
we
that.
feel that. We felt that because also sometimes it felt unfair
Yeah.
because we are entirely self, um, paid for our own education, paid for our own down payment, paid for everything since the time we were 18, both of us. And
Mm-hmm.
so it sometimes it did feel like other people are ahead, but it's like we are on it like a different track. So it's like, we haven't had all of the same, we have it so good. I'm not saying we're not advanced. Like we are very lucky to have what we have,
Yeah.
but it took us a while to work, to get here.
Right. Well,
I
you had
remember
to,
our realtor asking, I remember our realtor asking, do you have any family money, like any family that's going to give you money for the down payment? And I was like, what?
well, that is a big, big trend. And when I talk to realtors, and it's not just, it's in all different states. It's happening where parents are giving, because boomers own like 70% of the equity, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they have the money, they have the cash to give their kids like gifts. They call it gifts for down payments. That is
Right.
definitely a thing. And I'm surprised by it because I didn't get it either. And but it's definitely happening
Yeah.
because of affordability. I mean, as the prices go up, the down payments typically need to be bigger in
Yeah.
some, and it's hard.
Yeah. Our house before we bought it last sold in like 1996 for $100,000, and they had it for, almost 30 years. So it's probably a house that was paid off
Right.
almost, if you're not, so, and
Yeah.
that would be that generation
Yes.
that then has
Absolutely.
extra cash to spare. My parents have a paid off place.
That's great. That's great. Um, come to buying the house. If you could pick like what was the one thing, like challenge or struggle that you had that kept you up at night?
Our process is really easy.
Was it? That's good.
Yeah. It was
Like,
the challenge I had was negotiations, just little negotiations, like them coming back with like not wanting to give us a credit or giving us like less of a credit, but for the most part we found a house we liked, um and we put in an offer and they countered, we took it, and then it was just small negotiations. I guess I was worried. What kept me up at night, I guess, was the initial inspection, because we really, really, really wanted the house. But
yeah.
because it's an old house and it was kind of like a seamless process, we were afraid that something crazy would come back and then we'd have to pull out.
Okay. Okay. How is do you have any vacations planned, or are you spending all of your money on home renovations? Like,
We don't have big vacations planned for this year. I have like a girls' staycation in a couple weeks
nice.
planned, but my husband did just turn down a bachelor party because we're trying to like make sure that we're not overspending on particular things. We did a big vacation this past year, but there's also some like other life things going on that we're not planning too much right now.
Yeah.
But most of our time I think we spent like moving in, getting the house how we want it. The summer we're really excited for because we have a big backyard. And so, we're planning kids' birthdays there and barbecues and playing with the kids in the backyard and having play dates. Cause like something so important to me that I looked at when I was buying a home, like that was just very high up on the list of importance, was the ability to have my children's birthday party at our house. And so the layout of the house and the space for that, as silly as it is, like just those core memories of being able to like host things for your kids at your house. And so when I saw the house, the basement flows out to the backyard. And so it kind of becomes this like huge space for kids.
Yeah.
And it's fenced. So
That's
when I saw that, I was like, I can imagine having Ellie's birthday party here.
Yes.
So that kind of stuff. We love hosting.
Is it like is it a little nostalgic for you? Because like, millennials, it's like they lived in this time, they grew up in like the 80s and 90s where there wasn't cell phones yet, and we always, like I remember playing, my parents were like, go in the basement, and the basement was like the party
Go in the
place. We had
basement.
so much fun.
Go
Or
in the
go in the
basement with your
backyard.
friends or go ride your bike outside. So
Yeah.
some of my core memories as a child were riding my bike outside on my street.
Mm-hmm.
And so we bought Ellie a bike for Christmas. And we
Yeah.
have this like neighborhood now where she can go and ride her bike. But
Right.
yeah, it was always the basement.
Right. And so I'm always like at the like nostalgia a little bit. I'm like, oh, go ride your bike in the front in the street, right? Like go play in the yard. We
Yeah,
don't
we
have
bought a
basements.
cul-de-sac for that reason. I mean, like we bought on a cul-de-sac and our
Okay.
realtor was like, do you want to live at the end of the street? You're not by neighbors. I was like, yeah, no one's over here. We got kids.
Yeah, no cars. Right.
There's no cars coming back there except if it's us or our neighbors. So my kids kind of have like a little bit more of an area to play. So
That's
like it was
perfect.
really just like, what works for us, obviously, but like this is where they're growing up.
Right.
You and I got to have a childhood.
Right. Right. Totally. That's why it's nostalgic for me because I'm like, I'm, my 10-year-old is like sitting on his phone. I'm like, go outside and play. Like, this is not what,
Yeah,
you
you live in
know,
California. Like, what are you doing in the house?
right. Totally. Totally. Although it is 32 degrees here right now, but
I'm so sorry.
usually it's not. No,
So
you're not
sorry.
because it's like 5 degrees there.
Yeah, no, I'm not at all.
Um, okay. Just a home, how do you see it changing how you live or your family life? So,
Yeah, for the
so yeah,
better.
what for the better?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely. I don't. I think that that maybe is on. I think that that's maybe too simple of a answer. I think there's definitely going to be times where there's more financial strain because my husband said this the other day that he heard like, when you rent, that's the most amount you'll pay a month is your rent. But when you own, a mortgage is the least amount you'll pay. So I
Mhm.
definitely think, along with like the joys of having more space in a home comes also, more work to do. You have to put more work into the home, pay for things when they break. But overall, I like see it as a positive step in our family's direction. I think I feel confident in like the price we paid. We didn't overextend ourselves to the point that like, if one of us lost a job, we wouldn't be able to afford our home.
Right.
Um, and so, I foresee positive things moving forward with our family in our new home.
Do you because you said this is the home that your kids are going to grow up in. So your plan right now is to stay in this house long term?
That's a good question. So no, um, our plan would be possibly to move into a bigger home by the time my daughter starts middle school. So we're not transitioning her in the middle of middle school. We want to stay in Evanston. But the way that the housing market is like this,
Mhm.
you're not like 100% confident in anything. Right. So it's
But you
like
just
maybe this is where we stay and we build on because we don't know if, mortgage rates at that time will be 14% interest
right.
rates. Like you just don't know.
Right.
So I see like their little childhood there, when they're little,
Mhm.
and then trying to get a bigger space. But like, again, like this is where we are right now.
Yeah. And you
And
have
I
a
feel like a
three
lot of my friends bought 5-year houses and now they're locked in longer because they bought it 3% or whatever. And so now their 5-year house is becoming a lot more than a
oh
5-year
you're
house.
so wait, your friends bought so everyone talked about buying like a 5-year house? Okay. And then but it depends on when you bought, how long you're going to stay there.
Yeah.
So now
So between 2020, whatnot, but a lot of my
yeah,
friends now are like, this isn't a 5-year house. We have this great interest rate.
right. Yeah, okay.
So, and they don't have paid off mortgages to be like, see ya, I'm gonna pay cash for this. So that's kind of like, it's also that like societal influence. Like you hear about all this stuff, so you don't know what it's gonna look like then. So we're just
Right.
kind of like taking it day by day.
Yeah. But you're in, like I hear a lot of people say like, "Oh, I just got to get in." Right? Like kind of get in the game and you bought, so now you're in. Cuz a lot of people, they say like, "Oh, I'm going to wait. Like I'm going to wait during 2024 and just kind of see what happens." And it's like you can't time the market.
That's where we
You know what
were.
I
That's
mean?
like why, like, we don't, we're not experts in real estate by any. It's like this is the first time we bought a house. My husband's an IO psychologist. I'm a behavioral neuroscientist. Like we don't do this. But to me, logic seemed to be if there's less supply now and interest rates are high, and then interest rates drop and there's more supply, there's more people that are going to be buying. That's going to drive prices.
Mhm.
Possibly, but I don't know. But that was kind of where we are. It's like, you know, could say this because you're gonna end up putting it in the interview. I was gonna say,
No, you can say it.
the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago. The second best time is now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. People say that all the time.
Yeah, I love it.
Like everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna wait. It's like, okay, but everyone wishes they would have bought 10 years
Yeah,
ago.
we wish we bought in 2021 or whatever. But
Of course.
also we didn't there's a reason we didn't, right? Like
Right.
there's a lot of things that I wish I would have done. I wish I wouldn't have gone tanning. My whole
I wish I would have worn sunscreen on my face
Right.
when I was 25 instead of trying to get tan.
Yes,
Yes, I totally,
but I
yes.
didn't. So now I do.